There are moments in MotoGP when a single comment can send a shockwave through the entire paddock. Marc Marquez, the champion of 2025, the destroyer of expectations, the man who returned to the top after years of injury, has been told that there is only one rider he should truly fear in 2026. Not Bagnaia, not Bezzecchi, Binder, or Bastianini, but Pedro Acosta. The kid who rides like a storm, the kid who came into MotoGP like he was born for it. The kid who, according to former LCR Honda boss Oscar Haro, has the rarest combination of instinct, aggression, and natural talent since the early days of Marquez himself. And this is where the story begins. Not on a bike, not in a race, but in the shadow of a prediction that has already started to shape the energy of the 2026 season. Marc Marquez has been warned. Pedro Acosta is coming. As Marquez celebrated the most emotionally charged title of his Ducati career, it was easy to believe that the next season would simply be a continuation of his dominance. After all, 2025 belonged to him. The speed, the consistency, the ruthlessness. Every race seemed like a reminder of the rider he once was and the rider he had fought years to become again. He broke records. He broke expectations. And in many races, he broke the spirit of his rivals. But not everyone saw 2025 as the birth of a new era of Ducati domination. Those who looked deeper saw something different, something shifting beneath the surface. Because Ducati's advantage was shrinking, Aprilia was rising, KTM was stirring, Yamaha was rebuilding with patience and purpose. And among the wave of change, one name kept emerging from the mouths of engineers, journalists, and former leaders: Pedro Acosta. He was the rookie who didn't flinch, the rider who entered MotoGP and immediately rode with a maturity that made veteran racers uncomfortable. The rider who wrestled a KTM that wasn't always worthy of his potential, yet still found ways to shine. He was fearless, hungry, raw. And Oscar Haro, one of the men who knows the deep mechanics of MotoGP talent development, didn't hesitate for a second when asked who Marc Marquez should fear in 2026. His answer was simple: Pedro Acosta. He didn't list multiple riders. He didn't offer a safe political spread of names. He pointed to one, and he didn't stop there. He explained that Acosta is the only rider on the grid who rides the Honda like Marc does. The only rider who mirrors the same natural instincts, the same wild angle confidence, the same ability to force a bike to obey him, even when logic says it shouldn't. Haro didn't say Acosta will beat Marquez in 2026, but he made something crystal clear. If there is one rider who has the skill, the instinct, and the pure DNA of a world champion capable of dethroning Marc, it is him. And Marquez knows it. Because he studies his rivals. He watches their growth. He learns their weaknesses, their strengths, their fears. And when he watches Acosta, he doesn't see a rookie anymore. He sees something familiar, a younger version of himself, a rider who doesn't wait for permission, a rider who doesn't ride the bike, he attacks it. There's a reason the comparison makes people uneasy, because comparing anyone to Marc Marquez comes with weight. And yet Acosta carries it easily. Look at the numbers. The qualifying battle that broke KTM statistics. A 21-0 domination against Brad Binder, a seasoned factory rider. A head-to-head that became so one-sided that journalists stopped calling it a battle. It wasn't a fight. It was a takeover. Binder, who was once KTM's flagship hope, suddenly found himself cast in the shadow of a new rising giant. Haro mentioned it bluntly. Acosta has made Binder's life very difficult. And not because Binder got slower, but because Acosta got frighteningly fast. A rider doesn't overwhelm a teammate like that unless he's operating on a different level entirely. And this is where the curiosity of the 2026 season deepens. If Acosta manages that level of performance on a KTM that still struggles to match Ducati on pure pace, what happens when the machinery gap closes? What happens when KTM solves their inconsistencies? What happens when they roll out a 2026 bike that truly matches his style? Haro believes the outcome is obvious. Because the biggest threat to a champion is never the rider with the best bike. It's the rider with nothing to lose and everything to prove. Pedro Acosta is that rider. Marc Marquez is the target. And next season, the story becomes even more complex. Because 2026 isn't just another title fight. It is the season where Marquez must defend the crown he worked years to reclaim, the season where his experience, speed, and psychology will be tested by a new generation that refuses to wait its turn. The paddock feels the tension already. Ducati engineers know they cannot rely solely on the advantage of a superior machine. Aprilia senses an opportunity. KTM is sharpening its claws. And under all of that, the riders themselves are changing, evolving, preparing for a season that could define the next decade. Acosta, for his part, is not hiding. He has said openly that he can beat Marquez on equal machinery. He has said he is not intimidated by Marquez's legacy. He's not blinded by the name, the history, or the aura. He sees Marquez as a rival, not a legend. It is the perfect psychological setup, because nothing unsettles a champion like a young rider who refuses to bow. Nothing fuels competition like the reflection of your younger self, and nothing adds more pressure to a title defense than being told publicly by respected voices in the sport that a new generation is coming and they are coming for you. Marquez is no stranger to fear. He has raced through pain that would sideline most athletes for a season. He has pushed through surgeries, fractures, setbacks, and moments that would end lesser careers. He doesn't fear riders. He doesn't fear pressure. But what lies ahead isn't fear. It's challenge. A challenge so rare that even Marquez acknowledges it in subtle ways. He watches Acosta's style. He respects it. He studies it. He knows that beating experience is difficult, but beating talent that hasn't even matured yet, that's something else entirely. And while Acosta still lacks a MotoGP victory, that statistic means nothing in the grand scheme of this story. Some riders take years to find that first win. Others burst onto the scene with immediate impact. Acosta's progression isn't about trophies, it's about trajectory. Every race he's getting smarter. Every weekend he's learning something about the bike, the field, the pressures, and the rhythm of the championship. He is evolving at a pace that even KTM didn't expect. And Haro saw the truth in that evolution. When asked again about Acosta's potential, he didn't hesitate. He's the only one who can hurt Marquez. The only one. 4 words that carry enormous weight. 4 words that turned the paddock's attention from admiration to anticipation. Because title fights aren't won on talent alone. They're won on conflict, momentum, psychology, and timing. And in 2026, all those elements are aligning in a way that feels almost scripted. A champion reborn at Ducati. A young prodigy rising at KTM. A grid tightening as the machinery gap closes. And a narrative brewing that feels destined to explode. And somewhere in the middle of all, Marc Marquez is preparing. He knows defending a title is harder than winning one. He knows rivals study every weakness the champion shows. He knows that he will enter the season with a target painted across his back. A target that grows bigger with every analysis, every prediction, every comment like Haro's. But he also knows something else. Something that has always set him apart. Pressure doesn't break him. Pressure awakens him. The more intense the threat, the sharper he becomes. The more dangerous the opponent, the more perfect his execution. That is why 2026 won't be a season defined by fear. It will be defined by collision. The immovable legend versus the unstoppable youth. The champion versus the challenger. Experience versus hunger. And for the first time in a decade, Marc Marquez's greatest rival isn't the rider beside him on the grid. It's the rider behind him growing faster every lap, every race, every season. Pedro Acosta is coming, and whether Marquez fears him or not, the world will be watching when they meet on equal ground.